everyone, today I'm going to talk about masculinity and lying. So, have you guys ever wondered about whether the person that you're talking to is lying or not? In fact, it is a very hard thing to tell. Extensive research has shown that biologically people respond differently when lying versus saying the truth. For example, sweating, heart racing, blood pressure going up are often signs of lying. However, all these measurements are microscopic. Without specific training, it is very hard to tell whether a person is lying or not. But actually, it is possible to tell whether someone is possibly lying only by looking at their faces. Very recent research has shown that certain masculinity traits are related to dishonesty behaviors. But first, we need to define what is masculinity. Namely, how to know how masculine a guy is. There are two measurements for the experiment: how to measure a guy, how masculine a guy is. So the first measurement is called 2D 4D ratio. So 2D refers to the length of your second or index finger. 4D refers to your fourth or ring finger. So you just take a ruler and then measure the length from the tip of your index finger to the top of your palm and record that, and that's your 2D, the length of 2D. Same for 4D, you just take a ruler, measure the length of your ring finger from the top of your palm all the way to the tip of your ring finger. And then you divide the 2D length by the 4D length. The smaller the ratio is, the more masculine you are. The second measurement the experiment has is called facial width to height ratio. So facial width to height ratio is kind of hard to explain by words. So we just take a look at a picture. So basically, you can draw a rectangular box on your face, and then this rectangular box can measure the ratio of the width of your face and the height of your face. So as the example shown right here, low ratio means that you have a longer face. So when you divide the width of your face by the height of your face, you get a smaller ratio. And then if you have a wider face, you have a higher facial width to height ratio. And then there's actually a third measurement that the experiment has, but it is very hard to describe by words or even pictures. It's a quantitative measurement of how masculine your face is, how much it deviates from a typical female face. But we will not worry about that. These two measurements that we have are enough. Yeah, basically. Let's now talk about the design of the experiment. So basically, there are two guys in a room. And let's call this guy on the left A and the other guy on the right B. And A or B are playing a strategic game. The detail of the rules of the game, you don't have to worry about it. And basically, I'll summarize it for you. And there are basically 4 different results you can get. The first is that if A tells B the truth and B trusts what A says, then B get an advantage. If A tells B the truth and B does not trust what A says, B get a disadvantage. If A tells B a lie and B trusts what A says, B will get a disadvantage. If A tells B a lie and B does not trust A, then B will get an advantage. And A and B, they have been playing these strategic games for multiple rounds. And A will start to get a sense of what, you know, how B is going to react what A says. So A, he knows that B is probably going to trust or not trust what he says. And with all the above information we know, we can yield 4 different scenarios from the experiment. So the first is that A knows B tends to trust what A says, and A tells B the truth. This is what we call truth telling, strong truth telling. Second scenario is A knows that B tends to trust what A says, and A tells B a lie. This is normally how we lie, right? We know that this guy that we're lying to is probably, he will probably trust what we say. So we tell him a lie. The third scenario is A knows that B tends to not trust what A says, and A tells B the truth. This is also a form of lying because you are still, you know that this guy is probably not going to trust you, so you tell him the truth, and thus he not trusting you result to a disadvantage to him. And the fourth scenario is A knows that B tends to not trust what A says, and A tells B a lie. This is a very rare scenario of truth telling. It's called a true altruistic lying. It's a very strong sign of truth telling because you know that this guy is probably not going to trust you, and you tell him a lie so that he does not trust. He choose the thing, he choose to not trust you, and does himself get an advantage. It's like A wants to get an advantage. Okay, and what are the results of the experiment? The results has found rather 2 controversial results. The first is that 2D4D, they found that 2D4D is positively correlated with truth telling. But they also found that facial width to height ratio is negatively correlated with truth telling. It's confusing, right? So, because following the first, we know that we got the result that the more masculine a guy is, the more likely he will tell the truth. But if we follow the second result, we tend to think that if the more masculine a guy is, the more likely he will tell a lie. So why is that? Actually, the results are not controversial. Because previous research has found that 2D4D is a manifestation of high level of sex hormone exposure during the fetal and prenatal period. So 2D4D is a manifestation of high masculinity. You're exposed to higher level of sex hormone during your fetal period, and you are more masculine. However, facial width to height ratio has not been found to be correlated with sex hormone exposure. Rather, facial width to height ratio is a empirical measurement of how masculine a guy is. So the problem is resolved. We know that the more masculine a guy is, the more likely he will tell the truth. So next time if you see a guy, man, he's very masculine, or his 2D/4D ratio is very small. So you can safely assume that he will probably tell the truth to you. And yeah, that's basically all. I hope you guys learn a little bit about psychology, a little bit about biology, and a little bit about telling truth and lying today. Thank you very much for listening, and that's all.